Just like late last year, the Dodgers are without both of their top catchers, and LA responded by bringing back Ben Rortvedt and Hunter Feduccia right before the trade deadline.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Harry Ruiz, that's Travis Rodgers, and it's time for Locked On Dodgers. On today's show, Orel Hershiser gets ready to receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Then we'll dig into Justin Wrobleski's recent home run problem and whether there's a reason to be concerned. But first, Travis, Dalton Rushing landed on the injured list, and the team brought back two familiar faces to cover that position for now.
Yep, we're all over it on today's episode of Locked On Dodgers, brought to you by Kalshi. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON to get up to $500 in bonus credits when you trade just $25.
Rushing out. Two catchers back. The Dodgers went from having questions about their catching depth to finding help in the position by phoning two old friends. Will Smith has already been sidelined for months. Dalton Rushing had taken over the bulk of the work behind the plate, and then shortly before the trade deadline, Rushing experienced discomfort in his throwing arm and was placed on the IL with right elbow inflammation. And just like that, Travis, the Dodgers were without their established starting catcher and the youngin who had stepped into the biggest opportunity of his young career. That changed the entire equation right before the trade deadline, where they had been evaluating the catching depth, and there was a big situation brewing, and we had talked about it in yesterday's show. They should go and look for Ben Rortvedt. What do? They went and they traded with the Mets for him, and not just him. They went to the Rays and brought back Hunter Feduccia, the two catchers that were involved in that trade deadline deal last year. They were able to get the one that they shipped away and the one that they brought in. So two catchers who already know the organization, know the clubhouse, and importantly, have experience working with some of the pitchers currently on the Dodgers staff.
Yeah, I think that's the most important part, is that these are familiar faces, and more importantly, they're familiar with the culture that the Dodgers are currently playing under, that what the expectations that come along with being a Dodger at this point in this incredible run that they've been on. I don't know if it really fixes any of the problems that they've had. I think that the fact that you're missing your 1 and your 2 is still a pretty big deal. Now, they were able to deal with it last year with Rortvedt coming back. I think that's obviously why he was at the top of the list. Feduccia has been around, but neither one of these guys have exactly set the world on fire, where they've been in other places. So this was the one part, as we got closer to the deadline, that it felt like the Dodgers really did have some need. We talked so much about Scooble, and we get a chance to see him tonight, and everybody's excited for that because he's the number one player on the market, et cetera, et cetera. But there was an actual need. There was a lack of warm bodies at the catcher position, and Hershiser, Alfonso, and Chucky Robinson, they're doing the best they can, but they're not major league players at this point in their careers. They are depth at best, and that's at best. That Rushing did an incredible job filling in for Will Smith, and the drop-off from Rushing to whoever was coming in after him was legit, was real, was noticeable. So they needed to go out and address it. We'll see who's the guy that kind of steps in. Hopefully this means that Will Smith is coming back soon. And just to kind of finish the thought, that this add this to the list of the Dodgers saying, "Oh no, it's not a big deal." Whenever they tell you it's not a big deal, buckle up and hold your breath, because somebody's probably going to miss some time. And I'll be honest, this oddly enough makes me feel a certain way about everything they've been saying about Shohei. I know Shohei had a couple of other hits last night, but every time they say it's not a big deal, the next thing you know, that guy's on the IL for a period of time. And they've been telling us it's not a big deal about Ohtani for the better part of a month now.
That's the kiss of death, apparently, in the Dodgers organization. Oh, it's okay. It's not a big deal. Everything's all right. Boom. Everything ain't all right when you get told that. So I rather, it's like, yeah, it's a situation we're observing because it's kind of rough right now. I rather hear that than everything's okay, because that seems to be when everything ain't okay. So the details on these deals: the Dodgers, they acquired Ben Rortvedt from the New York Mets in exchange for right-handed pitcher Chase McDermott, who they had just DFA'd a couple of days back. Then they acquired not only Hunter Feduccia, but also pitcher Jacob Komatz from the Tampa Bay Rays in exchange for outfielder Jack Sawinski and international bonus pool money. So two clear needs for the Dodgers: starting catcher and backup catcher right now that you don't have Will Smith, and the case of Dalton Rushing going on the IL, Travis, and they pretty much don't lose anything of big-time value to be able to get two guys who had been in the organization as recently as last year. One of them being traded in the trade deadline, one of them being acquired in the trade deadline, coincidentally in the same move. The thing here is catcher is one of the hardest positions to plug and play because the job is about much more than showing up and taking at-bats. You're learning pitchers. You're understanding their strengths. You're working through game plans, receiving different types of stuff and building trust. And for example, from the guys that Rortvedt worked with last year, you have Yoshinobu Yamamoto. But Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow, they're working their way back. Shohei Ohtani, he is right now on the ice when it comes to his pitching side. So a lot of these guys, he hasn't caught Eric Lauer. He hasn't caught nobody in the Dodgers staff has caught Tarek Skubal, who's going to be making his Dodgers debut today. So it's going to be a ramp-up process for him. And Ben Rortvedt, originally it was like, okay, if Dalton Rushing is with the team, he's going to stay with the AAA team because he doesn't have options. And then he was with the AAA team with the Mets. So it's a funky situation. And no, bam, Rushing on the IL, Rortvedt is going to be activated today.
Yeah, they got to juggle their 40-man, and that comes down to, like, you know, logistics, secretarial stuff that the organization is really good at. So they'll get that squared away. I think what's interesting is a couple of different things. Number one, these are the sort of deals, these deals where I'll trade you my surplus for your surplus, and we get this guy over here, and these names that we just kind of go, oh, yeah, okay, whatever. Like Jack Sawinski, for instance, like these guys that we just kind of move past. Well, these are the sort of deals that have allowed them to go get Tarek Skubal. It's these lower level deals where they're acquiring prospects or they're sending this guy out that all of a sudden you fast forward a couple of years later, you're like, wait, that guy that they sent out brought them this, and now they're flipping it for this elite player. So while sometimes we just kind of blow past them because they don't impact the big league roster right away, these things often circle back. So all of these trades actually matter. These are a little less, detailed just because this is just a really short term. We need a catcher today. We need a catcher for the next, 10 days or whatever it is. So these are a little easier. As far as what they're being asked to do, it's both the hardest thing to do and it's the easier thing to do. The hard part is what you described, Harry, is coming in and having to catch a staff full of Cy Young Award winners, All-Stars, World Series champions, and everything else. That's very challenging when you haven't had to do it for a while. The easier part is literally no one is expecting you to do anything offensively. Like, you don't even have to get a hit for as long as you could take a big fat offer the entire time, as long as you keep that ball off the backstop, as long as you're on the same page with your pitcher, as long as you're blocking the balls that need to be blocked, as long as you're running the ABS correctly. Like, just catch the ball. Just make sure that the ball's in front of you after it leaves the pitcher's hand. That's a success here. We don't need any offense. You don't need to be Will Smith. You don't need to be Dalton Rushing. Just catch the baseball. And that's why I think Alfonso and Chucky Robinson have been kind of passed over, because they weren't catching the baseball enough. It has nothing to do with the offense. It has everything to do with just catch the ball. And we know that Rortvedt can do that. And I think that Feduccia can do that as well.
Another move the Dodgers made was with the Kansas City Royals trading for left-handed pitcher Kris Bubic, who was an all-star last season with the Royals, in exchange for Carlos Duran, who was on the 40-man roster, who the Dodgers picked up on a minor league contract earlier in the year, and he was with the AAA OKC Comets. Bubic was on the injured list, so it's a situation where it's probably for later in the year in case you got to break the glass in case of emergency with him out of the bullpen. So those were the moves they made. The moves they didn't make, the Dodgers, they kept Eric Lauer. They kept Alex Call. So no talent outgoing from the big league roster, from the active roster. And Travis, the interesting situation here, another juggle with the 40-man roster. Emmett Sheehan still had options, so he got sent to AAA OKC, and Eric Lauer is going to continue being a starting pitcher for the Dodgers for now.
Yeah, he's earned it. He's pitched great. I mean, he's just been absolutely reliable in the sense that he's given you 5 or 6 innings every time he takes the ball. He doesn't walk a lot of guys. He gives up some hits here and there. Okay, whatever. He just doesn't really put himself in a lot of trouble. And that's exactly what Sheehan wasn't able to do. Sheehan just the last few times was getting clobbered. And not just that he wasn't pitching well, he was pitching really poorly. He was giving up a lot of home runs. He was giving up a lot of contact. He was falling behind. He wasn't able to finish out hitters. You know, it was a little bit like what we saw with Sasaki early in the year, only with fewer walks. But look, you cannot get hit like that. The last couple of times he went out there, he had a really rough outing, and this is probably what he needs. This is kind of something that you and I have talked about earlier in the year. When you lose your confidence, and I think that's what's going on with Emmett Sheehan. I think there's a lack of confidence right now. All of a sudden, you got to get it back, and the only way you can get it back is by getting guys out. And I know that getting guys out in the minor leagues is different than getting them out in the big leagues, but you got to start somewhere. And when you're not getting anybody out at the major league level, let's back it down a little bit. Let's go to the minor leagues. Let's work on finishing hitters off. Let's work on getting out of tough spots. Let's get our confidence back. So when you come back, it's not as complicated as it seems. It's get ahead, stay ahead, put them away. And that's what he hasn't been able to do right now. So hopefully he can kind of learn those things. This is why the Dodgers are what they are. When they see a problem, they try to address it as quickly as they can. They realize that they're not playing great baseball right now. They needed to kind of get back on the beam a little bit. So Sheehan was the easy one to move out. And you know, this is kind of how it goes for young guys, that through the early part of the season, it can be one thing. Through the second part of the season, it can be another. I know we're going to talk about Justin Wrobleski. I think he's going through that transition right now as well, where it doesn't just stay at one spot. It's not always bad. It's not always good. Young players go through the gamut of good, great, not so good, not so bad. And right now, Emmett Sheehan's in one of those valleys right now. And hopefully he can figure it out in the minor leagues, because I think we'll see him back in the major leagues. I don't know if we'll see him pitch a ton of important innings so far this season or the rest of the season, but he's been an important part of getting them to where they are. So I'm pulling for the guy. He just hadn't been pitching well for the better part of a month or so.
So, Travis, with the trade deadline now in the rearview mirror, obviously the biggest move happened over the weekend with Tarik Skubal joining the Dodgers for 3 prospects. What grade would you give the Dodgers for the moves that they were able to make to get Tarik Skubal, 2 catchers, and also pitching help out of the bullpen?
You know that you've done a good job when the entire story around baseball is, what the hell did the other guy do? Right. And the answer for the Tigers was, you got what for Tarik Skubal? So I think that they got Skubal would have given them a high grade regardless. That they got Skubal for giving up virtually nothing in the process shoots it up to the A+ level. Whatever they did behind that, I think is window dressing. Like we just talked about a second ago, those things can certainly become more important later in the season or in other seasons. I think the backup catching that they addressed was important along the way. But they got Skubal for a bag of magic beans, so it's an A++. When you get a player that good, and especially when you don't have to pay a very high rate for it, it's a win for sure.
I was going A+. Travis just went A++, went above and beyond that. So the Dodgers thumbs up definitely with their trade deadline moves. So to close segment 1, I want to ask you, with Will Smith and Dalton Rushing both out right now, how confident are you in the Dodgers catching situation after the additions made on Monday? Drop your take in the comments or let us know on any of our social networks, or also hit up the Locked On Dodgers listener line, 2793-LOCKED. We want to hear where you stand. Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, Justin Wrobleski has now allowed 8 home runs in his last 2 starts. Is this just a rough stretch, or are opposing hitters starting to figure something out? Nothing beats being at a Dodgers game. Even better when you get to watch it live. The energy in the stands, the crowd roaring, that electric vibe you just can't get anywhere else. The only downside is that scoring tickets can be a total pain, with endless lines, random fees, and prices that jump right before you hit checkout. That's why I've been using Game Time. The app makes it super easy, with real tickets, delivered fast, and at the best prices. But my favorite part is that the fees are already baked in, so what you see is exactly what you pay. No surprises. You can follow along the Dodgers on the app and you get alerts when fresh deals pop up and literally grab seats in 2 taps, making it super easy to decide hitting up a game last minute. If you're thinking about heading out to the stadium, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today.
Make baseball season more this year. On Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade on every single game, right? You can, of course, trade on the games. You can trade on the Dodgers at about a 54% probability to beat the Cubs, meaning a $100 trade is going to pay out about $180 if they win. You can also trade on just about anything else you want. You like the Oscars, you like politics, it is all there for you on Kalshi, because on Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position, trade the draft pick, the game, and more on Kalshi. Download the Kalshi app and use the code LOCKEDON to get up to $500 in bonus credits when you trade 25. KALSHI, Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risks and may not be suitable for all investors. Kalshi products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory.
Are you new here? Welcome. Everydayers, you already know you're the heartbeat of our show. It's easy and free to help us out. Subscribe and like our content on YouTube. Drop a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify and hit up the Locked On Dodgers listener line, 2793-LOCKED. That's 279-356-2533. Is Robo's magic fading? For much of the season, Justin Wrobleski has been one of the Dodgers' most pleasant surprises. He has taken on a larger role than expected. He's given this team meaningful innings and looked like someone who could be an important part of the rotation in the future. But the last 2 starts have been very different. Wrobleski has allowed 4 home runs in each outing. 8 home runs in 2 starts. That's just not just bad, Travis. That's not just a bad inning. That's not one pitch getting away from him. It's a trend that deserves attention right now.
Well, you want the good news, Harry?
Yes, sir. I always like good news.
He's the first Dodger ever to give up 4 home run games twice in one season. Okay, so that's good news. You're in the record book, and he did it in back-to-back games. So he did it in very short order. Yeah. So let me just say that again. Justin Wrobleski is the first Dodger pitcher in history to have 2 games in the same season where he has given up 4 home runs, and he did it in back-to-back starts. He's given up 14 hits in his last 2 starts. 8 of them have left the ballpark. That's horrible. That's not just a bad little run. That is literally historically terrible. That it has never happened before in the history of that. Usually after home run number 2, you're on the clock, right? It's like, okay, we get the bullpen going. 4, 2 games in a row. That's pretty wild. Now, that's the air quote good news. The real good news is sometimes weird blank happens. Sometimes you just kind of lose your groove for a little bit. That's the part that I'm sure the pitcher, Mark Pryor's telling him, Dave Roberts is telling him. I'm sure when he lays his head on the pillow at night, he's probably telling himself that, hey, man, it's a bad stretch. I'll be okay. I was in the All-Star game. I pitched really well this year. I've got good stuff. I can get guys out at the big league level. He's probably telling him all of this stuff to make himself feel a little better. The fact of the matter is, what you're seeing right now really is a little bit concerning. And what I mean by it is, Justin Wrobleski is not a proven commodity in the major leagues. You have to do it over the course of years to really just say, okay, this is a bad patch. He was in the league last year. He did all right, pitched in the World Series, did a good job for the team. And then this year, we all know how the season started. It was hey, just eat some innings while we figure out what's going on with the rest of our rotation. And he morphed into an all-star pitcher. Fact of the matter is, he was an all-star pitcher for 3 months and change. That's not a career. That's not an eternity. You're not a made guy. He's a good pitcher, but it takes a little bit more time than that. The league will always adjust. They're going to continue to work too. Now it's up to him to adjust back, and that's just kind of the cat and mouse game between batter and pitcher that constantly goes on in the big leagues, that you have to adjust to the adjustment, to the adjustment, to the adjustment. You're constantly going back and forth, and that's what he's struggling with right now. The good news is they have time to figure it out. The good news is reinforcements are on the way. The good news is they don't have to rely on him in the postseason to still be the overwhelming favorite. He's done exactly what they needed him to do, which is pitch well enough to get into the second half of the season so they can get their guys back. But for his own mental health and everything else, he's got to be wondering, man, what in the world is happening to me? Because we've seen it. Like, think Tony Gonsolin. Tony Gonsolin went to an all-star game. Then he was terrific. And then all of a sudden he was less terrific. Think Gavin Stone, who was getting just guys out left and right. And he goes down, and we haven't really seen him ever since. These guys that show up are really good and then kind of lose it is not an uncommon story. It happens a lot in baseball. So, we'll see. He's been in a really rough patch. I think he'll figure it out. But even if he doesn't, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, Justin Wrobleski, over his last 2 starts, 8 home runs. In his first 17 games with the Dodgers this season, 8 home runs over 106 and 2/3 innings. Now he has allowed 8 home runs in his last 10 1/3 innings this season. That right there is just a huge discrepancy. And Travis, I was watching the post-game show, and Adrian Gonzalez brought up a really good point where earlier in the season, he was pitching for contact. He was pitching to get guys out quick and not chasing those strikeouts, where if you're going for the strikeout, you're also more inclined to giving up a walk or 2 or 3 and potentially putting one over the plate for the opposing players to hit a home run. Do you think that's now a part of the equation, where earlier in the season the strikeouts weren't coming for Wrobleski, but the positive outings were? Now the strikeout numbers have increased, but in these last 2 starts, the negative results have as well.
It could be. I mean, it could be a change in approach a little bit. I think that's always, something to look at. I'm sure that's something that he's trying to figure out. Is he attacking hitters differently? And if he is, can he go back to the original way? And if he is not, that means they've made an adjustment to him, and now he needs to make an adjustment back to them. If I had to bet, Harry, and if I'm just kind of speculating from a distance, I think it's the innings more than it is approach. That we're in August. He's never really pitched like this before, and he's certainly never pitched like this at the major league level before. Those innings add up, and big league innings wear differently than minor league innings, than college innings, than high school innings. Not all innings are created the same. You pitch 50 innings in high school, it's one thing. You pitch, 100 innings in college, it's different. You pitch 100 innings in the minor leagues, it's different. Well, 100 innings at the big league, all stressful, all high leverage. Your career, I mean, they're just built differently. So maybe if I had to guess, it's just the accumulation of him throwing more innings than he has at this point, probably than any other point in his career, more stressful innings than he's had at any point in his career. And there could be some fatigue built in there as well. But it's probably a little bit of all of these things: adjustments from the hitters, fatigue, change in approach, and just, baseball. Right, that you don't get guys out every day for an entire season unless you're Tarek Skubal or Yamamoto. That's the reason those guys are those guys. Other guys kind of ride the wave, and right now he's in a low spot of the wave, and he's got a long way to climb out of it, because 8 home runs in what'd you say, 10 innings? That's rough, man.
Yeah, and 10 1/3 innings for Justin Wrobleski. Yesterday, only 4 1/3 innings. He was able to stay out there at Wrigley Field, and he was getting rocked left and right in this games. And with the Dodgers scoring 5 runs, you usually feel good when they put up a 5 spot. It could have easily been more, but Kyle Tucker, another running gaff out there trying to extend a single into a double. Yes, Ohtani as well. And it's a situation where it's like, okay, they're not playing clean baseball. It's now 4 losses in a row. And at the end of the day, they end up counting. But with the Dodgers having as big of a lead as they do in the National League West, you feel good about their position. And with the talent that they have, it's just a matter of time when they start all clicking and playing the way that they should. And you feel confident about it. Any other team, a 4-game losing streak is like, oh boy, the Dodgers, it's like, yeah, but we got Tarek Skubal over Saturday, so the sweep against the Red Sox didn't hurt. Now you lose against Chicago. Well, you got another chance at bouncing back with Tarek Skubal on the mound on Tuesday.
Yeah, no, they're playing lousy right now. They don't look sharp. They don't look clean. They're sloppy. They're all the things that you don't really associate with it. They had a 3-run lead in the top of the first inning yesterday, and they got
5
crushed.
pitches in.
Yeah. That was like, oh, okay, they're gonna look like themselves. They're gonna roll. And not only did they not win, they ended up getting blown out because of some sloppy baseball and some bad pitching and some, Henriquez lost his mojo with the walks. It was an ugly day for them. They're not playing right. They're not playing very well right now. Hopefully Scooble kind of hits that reset button and everybody kind of locks back in. But look, they do this every year where they'll play kind of 500 baseball for, a few weeks and everything looks a little stale and a little like, that's right. And then all of a sudden, they'll win 15 out of 17. This is kind of what they do. And it's not a lot of fun to watch, but like you said, I don't think this is the end of the world and the good baseball's coming, but they need to clean it up. They've looked really kind of bleh for about 2 or 3 weeks.
Let's close segment 2 asking you, our viewer, our listener, do you think Justin Wrobleski is simply going through a rough stretch, or do you think the Dodgers need to figure out whether hitters have figured something out from Robo? Drop your answer in the comments or hit us up on social at Harry Ruiz on X, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram, or on TikTok at Harry Ruiz_. Next on Locked On Dodgers, one of the greatest pitchers in Dodgers history is receiving one of Hollywood's biggest honors. Orel Hershiser is getting his star on the Walk of Fame, and the details behind its location make the tribute even better.
Support for today's episode comes from Clutch Parlays. Whether you're betting on the big game, player props, or building your next parlay, having the right information makes all the difference. Tracking odds across sportsbooks like FanDuel, finding value picks, building parlays, tracking bets, and analyzing performance, Clutch Parlays gives you the tools to make every wager with more confidence. And what makes Clutch Parlay stand out is how they make everything so accessible. Instead of piecing together odds, pregame analysis, live predictions, bet tracking, and analytics from a bunch of different places, Clutch Parlays brings it all together in one streamlined experience, right? Clutch Parlays gives you all of those in one spot. And it's not just handing you raw data, it's analyzing it, turning that into pregame and live predictions that update as things change to help you find real value and build smarter parlays. Find the best line, build smarter parlays, track every bet, and make more informed betting decisions, all with clutchparlays.com. Go to clutchparlays.com today and use the code LOCKEDON for your first month free on a monthly plan. Clutchparlays.com. Bring together live odds, line shopping, predictions, bet tracking, and analytics in one place so you can bet with more confidence. Pick smarter, parlay sharper.
Before we dive into more in today's show, it's time for the Everyday Icon, presented by Stance. As the official sock partner of Major League Baseball, Stance gets it. Greatness doesn't happen overnight. It's built the hard way. Consistency, preparation, and just showing up every single day. That's why each week we shine a light on a player who's living those same values. This week's Everyday Icon is Teoscar Hernandez, who's been hitting his stride over the last 11 games. He even went extra yard on last night's game against the Cubs, hitting a home run out of Wrigley Field. Teoscar Hernandez, your Everyday Icon. The Everyday Icon is presented by Stance. Go check out the Icon collection from Stance with premium comfort, performance, and durability built for whatever your day throws at you. Use the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout and grab 20% off. Stance, the official sock partner of Major League Baseball. Learn more at stance.com. Check out Pete Fox on our YouTube channel with the Locked On Dodgers postcast right after the final out for immediate reaction of every Dodgers game. Hollywood honors Orel. Orel Hershiser is already a Dodgers legend. He has a World Series ring, a Cy Young Award, an unforgettable postseason run, and one of the most famous nicknames in franchise history. Now, the Bulldog is adding another honor. Travis Hershiser is receiving a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And for someone whose career is so closely connected to Los Angeles, it's a fitting recognition.
It really is. It's an incredible honor. And I was able to kind of chat with him a little bit about it when the announcement was made. And he was very humbled by it, and it was great to see, or I should say, hear him just how it landed on him, because it really is an incredible. There's not a lot of athletes out there. There's not a lot of guys that aren't in movies or television or music or whatever it is. So that he landed there, it's really special, and I think it's perfect because he tells the story of the late 80 Dodger baseball in one guy, right? We know Kirk Gibson was a big part of it. Tommy Lasorda is a part of it. There are other very important guys, to be sure, but without that incredible run in 88, we don't have the Kirk Gibson moment. We don't have them beating the A's when they weren't supposed to, beating the the New York Mets in the NLCS when they weren't supposed to. And it's baseball is not supposed to be a sport where one player puts a team on his back and carries them over the course of several months. And that's exactly what Orel did. He was that good for that long. And like you said, the address where this thing is located is just about perfect, considering who's getting the star.
No doubt about it. It's going to be 6755 Hollywood Boulevard. The 67, recognizing one of the most remarkable achievements in Major League Baseball history, when in 88, he set the mark for a Major League record with consecutive scoreless innings. And you look at 55 representing his jersey number. You look at everything all around it, Travis, and it's just perfect for him. And you can look at his Major League career. That's one huge accomplishment, but also what he's done outside of the playing field as a broadcaster. I remember him when he was starting off with ESPN with Sunday Night Baseball. It was really cool whenever the Dodgers were on primetime on Sunday nights. You were able to see him at Dodger Stadium every now and then with Sportsnet LA, and now with NBC. He's a huge voice when it comes to those that have the responsibility of having a mic on their hand to talk about baseball, and he's one of the best to do it.
Yeah, he does a thing that I love. That it's the reason that I like certain broadcasters more than others, and he might be right near the top of it. Is at least once a game, and sometimes many times a game, he'll say something that makes you go, wow, I never thought of it like that. Wow, I didn't. Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't know that's why that is the way that it is, or I didn't know that's the way that you approach a hitter, or I didn't know that's why you take a lead that way, or why you throw it. Like, he teaches you baseball without being, kind of nah about it. He's just incredibly knowledgeable, incredibly informative. He's funny. He's opinionated. He's got the credentials to kind of say, hey, look, this is how it is, and you listen to it because he's had such an amazing career the way that he has. The way that he works with Joe Davis is incredible. He's just the insight, the institutional knowledge of understanding the history of the Dodgers. He's really good at that. And I've been very lucky to get to spend a lot of time with him over the last few years. And I'm lucky to get to call him a friend. I'm lucky to get to pick his brain occasionally. He comes on my radio show a lot. We've seen him here on Locked On Dodgers as well. He's really a special guy, and it's a real honor for him to get that star, and incredibly well-deserved.
I mean, it's easy, right? When you have two pitchers breaking down baseball like Orel, Hershiser, high quality arms out there. That's why there's a lot of respect, but it's always fun when you bring him on the show and we're able to listen to his knowledge here on our show. And the stuff, not only with the industry of baseball, but him doing his entrepreneurial stuff over with Legends Attic, with his car dealership. He definitely deserves this honor. And it's going to be pretty cool to see that ceremony August 13th, which is Thursday next week.
Yeah, and not to give away too big of a surprise, but another event coming up at Legends Attic on the 15th. It's a Saturday. Dalton Rushing scheduled to be out there. I'm going to go out there as well. So very likely get a chance to catch up with Dalton Rushing, and I can almost guarantee there'll be a chance to catch up with Orel. So you'll hear both of those guys on Locked On Dodgers after that. But congratulations to Orel for his and his pal Eddie Alizadeh, who's of course involved in all of this stuff, but also a friend of mine. So congratulations to all those guys, and like I said, very, very well deserved.
Congratulations to the Bulldogs. So let's finish today's show asking you at home, what is your favorite Orel Hershiser memory? Let us know in the YouTube comments or reach out on social media. All right. That's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On, which is celebrating its 10th anniversary, the #1 sports podcast network. We'll be back on Wednesday to talk about, I wonder what. Oh, yeah. Tarek Skubal is going to be making his debut with the Dodgers tonight at Wrigley Field. And Travis, that's one of the most exciting Tuesday games in Dodgers history for a regular season.
Yeah, I'd have to go through all of my Tuesdays. I don't know, but maybe. I mean, it's certainly a fun night, and I think he's going to be great because he's always great. So we'll get a chance to see him.
No doubt about it. All right. If you're watching on YouTube, stick around and check out the 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network channel. And if you're listening on audio, make Locked On MLB your second listen of the day. Travis and I appreciate you riding with us. Until next time, keep it real. Keep it Dodger Blue.